So good afternoon and welcome, everybody. I hope you have grabbed your lunch, and I invite you to sit and enjoy over the next 45 minutes. This is our second Lunch and Learn. Thank you for joining us. These are our sense-making conversations of what's happening in the world. So let's have a look at what's happening this week. Well, of course, the big news that we all know, the coronavirus is continuing to increase globally. Stats that I saw this morning have us at 558,000 reported cases worldwide, with just over 4,000 reported cases here in Canada. Yesterday saw the single largest one-day increase at just under 50,000 cases being reported in one day. Now, these are scary statistics. And this crisis is having a significant impact on the well-being of so many right now. I know I personally am feeling it, and I'm guessing that many of you are feeling it as well. So what we need are some strategies, and I mean proven strategies that can help keep us strong despite all of the challenges. You know, one of the best resilience strategies that I've heard is to come together to support each other. And yet the necessary and responsible physical distancing that we are all doing right now is in fact keeping us apart. This creates a challenge, and I'm sure you're all feeling it. So our team here at Talk Boutique decided that we were going to reach out to who we knew to be the well-being expert, Louisa Jewell, and asked if she could share some strategies with us, and she agreed. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Louisa. She is a speaker, an author, a workplace well-being expert, and is often in the media, including regular appearances on CBC Radio, Forbes magazine, The Globe and Mail, Fast Company, and Oprah magazine. She's also the featured expert in the documentary, The Science of Happiness. I think that's one we all need to watch really soon. Her best-selling book, Wire Your Brain for Confidence, The Science of Conquering Self-Doubt, was named one of the top best psychology books of all time. Louisa is a past professor at the University of Texas in Dallas and is an instructor at the University of Toronto. Today, Louisa is going to help us to learn how to manage stress and anxiety and stay resilient during times of crisis. So tuck in. We've got about half an hour with Louisa, and then we're going to take your questions at the end. So pay attention, to put your questions down, and get ready to ask them. All right, Louisa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and I'm really pleased to be here. And as I go through this crisis, I ask myself, what can I do? And this is one thing that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing a lot of these webinars, and I'm just so pleased to be here with the Talk Boutique audience. So welcome, everybody. I want to talk about reducing stress and anxiety, but also about building resilience. So there's one thing we can do to manage the stress and anxiety, but there's also other things we can do to bolster us so that it can help us manage the stress and anxiety even better, and it can actually reduce it or eliminate it in some areas of our life. So first of all, let me start off. What do I mean by resilience? So resilience to me is about bouncing back quickly from adversity. It's about learning from failure and getting better. It's about conquering your stress and managing and coping well. And it's also about knowing how to stay strong, how to pump yourself up, how to be motivated as you go into challenges. So that's kind of my broad definition of resilience. And I'm going to be focusing in more on how to conquer stress and how to build that kind of strength and resiliency as we are going into this crisis, as we are amidst this crisis. So three different pathways that contribute mainly to resilience are our ability to be able to manage our emotions. So being able to keep those emotions in check. It's not about stifling the emotions. It's not about ignoring the emotions. It's about managing every emotion that's coming to us. The second pathway really is about managing your mental state, your cognitive abilities. So that is really about understanding, what are you saying to yourself as all of this is happening? And how do you stay strong from a mental perspective in terms of the way you think about this crisis? And the third is your physical. Now, a lot of people, and I've been watching a lot of the memes, you know, right now, we're kind of, when you're in high levels of stress and anxiety, what happens is you have lower levels of resistance to resist things like salt vinegar chips, Haagen-Dazs, right? All of those things, alcohol, all of those things that you think, I'm just under so much stress, I gotta just have these things and I'm gonna be weak in other areas of my life. And that's what typically happens. So the more you can actually surround yourself and protect your physical well-being, so staying away from the bad stuff, eating even better than you've eaten before, drinking less alcohol, because alcohol is actually a depressant, thinking about how you can move your body more, thinking about how you can sleep better. You know, moving your body is not about killing yourself at the gym all the time, but just doing something to move your body. All of these things are really, really important to maintain your resilience. The stronger your mind, the stronger your body, the stronger your mind. A lot of the times we talk about the mind-body connection. There is no mind-body connection. The body is the mind is the body. They are so, so intertwined. You cannot separate the two. So think about, one of the first things that you can think about to reduce your stress and anxiety is get your body strong. Do everything possible to put you in that physically strong state. And another thing you can do with your body is get outside. Now, I know that's challenging. If you can get outside safely, right? Not putting yourself in harm's way by putting yourself in a place where you're with other people. But can you just get outside in your backyard? Can you get outside on your front porch, on your front lawn? Can you drive somewhere that's more remote and outside and get outside? Because we do know from the research that we replenish ourselves much better when we're actually in nature. So try to get outside a couple of times a day if you can. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of stress. And here's what we know in terms of how our brains work. We know that there are 5 very common triggers that trigger the highest spikes in cortisol. So cortisol is a stress hormone. And so what we know from the latest neuroscience is that there are certain things that trigger more of a stress response than others. So the 5 things are any threats to our social status. So that is kind of, where do we feel we are in the pecking order? The second one is certainty. So the perception of how well we can predict the future. Any threats to that or uncertainty can cause a lot of stress. Autonomy. So having choices and also being able to make any choices that we want to make, having the freedom to make the choices that we want. Relatedness is about feeling safe around other people. So trust versus distrust. And fairness, feeling that we're having fair and just interactions with other people. And if you think about it, this coronavirus actually triggers every single stress response, the highest stress response. If you think about those 5 things, all of those things are being triggered at the same time. So if you are feeling high levels of stress and anxiety, totally normal in this particular case, because our brains are not wired to handle things like this very well. So one of the things I want to hone in on is this idea of uncertainty, because I think when you think about a whole pandemic, the first place we go to, and it's very scary as human beings, is to know that this is kind of completely out of our control. There's a lot of uncertainty around this. So this is completely beyond us. It's not anything that we can absolutely control. And that triggers a huge stress response. So I want to give you a tool that will help you put yourself back in your power again. Now, if we were doing a workshop, I normally do this exercise in my resilience workshops, and I call it the personal power grid. And here's how it works. I want you to think about the coronavirus. I want you to think about this particular crisis and ask yourself, what is in your control and what is out of your control? So when you think about anything that you're stressed about, ask yourself, what is in my control and what is out of my control? Now, some people always say, well, the coronavirus is completely out of my control, but that's not actually true. There are certain things that you can do to protect yourself that are in your control. And then there's other parts of it that, yeah, you're right, probably completely out of your control. So, for example, I always say to myself, I'm not going to watch the news. I haven't watched the news in probably 10 years. So that doesn't mean to be irresponsible. Right now, what I do is I have trusted sources that I go to. I have very few trusted sources that I go to, and I watch every single press release that's put out by the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal government to keep myself informed. So I have trusted news sources, but I don't watch the news because that just feeds this level of uncertainty that I have. It's news broadcasts are designed to sensationalize things, and that's just food for catastrophizing. So stay away from the regular news, but choose trusted news sources to keep yourself informed. So that's one way to kind of not let this feeling of being out of control get out of control. So when I ask myself, well, what is in my control? I say, okay, there's a few things in my control. I can stay in my house. That's one thing, thank goodness. I'm blessed that I do the kind of work where I can lock myself in my home and stay away. I wash my hands about 50 times a day. That's no joke. I'm boosting my immunity. That's one thing that I can do. And I clean surfaces regularly with those Clorox wipes. These are all things that are in my control to try to protect myself from getting the coronavirus. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, can I control the spread of coronavirus around the world? I can't. I mean, everybody has to do their part. I can do my part, but I can't really control what everybody else does. So I kind of have to let that go. And that's the best strategy. When things are in your control, get into solution mode. Do things about it. When they're out of your control, let it go. So if you are worrying every day about what's happening around the world, that's not going to be helpful. The only time worry is helpful is if it gets you into action. But if you're just worrying about things that are out of your control, it's wasted energy. And here's the thing, here's the reason why you want to stop worrying about things that you can't do anything about. It's because whether you worry or whether you don't worry, it's not going to make a difference to the outcome because it's out of your control. And if you worry, what you're doing is you're wasting precious mental resources that you could use to actually protect your well-being. So that's why it's important to be able to understand. And it is very empowering when you can say, look, I'm going to do everything possible to control what's in my control. I can also have a plan. I have a plan in place, for example. What if I do get the coronavirus? Do I have all the medications I need? Do I have a support system set up? Do I have a plan for where my daughter's going to go? I have put all of that in place but I don't worry about it because there's nothing I can do beyond taking all of the active measures that I'm taking to protect myself and my family. Okay, so do everything you need to stay healthy and keep your family healthy. Forget the rest. So that's the personal power grid. That's one way that you can actually reduce your stress. Now, I want to talk about how to fill your bucket, and I want to use the context of the 6 pillars of well-being. So the 6 pillars of well-being, we call it the PERMA-V well-being model. It's a model that's put out by Dr. Martin Seligman, who is a renowned, world-renowned psychologist in well-being, in the study of psychological well-being. And scientists have found that there are 6 different contributors to well-being. And I want to talk about how you can use those 6 pillars to actually build your resilience and well-being. Because as you go into your day, if you can be stronger, then you're going to be much more resilient. So the first, if the PERMA-V model, is P, positive emotions. So this is not saying, hey, let's just be happy every day, hey, coronavirus, but let's be happy anyway and smiley. No, we're not going to do that. But what scientists know is that what is important to well-being with regards to leveraging positive emotions is to maintain a ratio. So you want to have many more positive emotions to negative emotions in your day. And scientists conclude there's anywhere from 3, 4, or 5 positive emotions to every 1 negative emotion that you experience in the day. So because we're experiencing so many negative emotions at this particular time, you'll want to take opportunities and prioritize these moments of positivity throughout the day. So, you know, are you listening to your favorite comedians, watching your funniest shows? My friends are sending all these funny videos to me and little memes online. My daughter taught me this TikTok dance, you know, the other day, and we were laughing our head off. You know, I'm trying to have those things, you know, so it's those little things that you can be doing to kind of fill your day and compartmentalize and have those moments. Because a lot of the times when we're going through crisis, we think, well, how can I smile? How can I laugh? How can I be happy when people are dying? Well, you need to maintain it. So you're compartmentalizing these moments of joy while being respectful at other times of what's going on around the world. Okay, the second component of well-being is what we call engagement. So that's the E in the PERMA-B model. Engagement is about being mindful. There's so much research now that shows that daily mindfulness can dramatically improve your well-being, but it can also dramatically improve your resilience, because when you're mindful on the present moment, you are not ruminating about the past and you're not worrying about the future. So the more you can focus on the present moment, the better you will actually be and the more resilient you will actually be. So what I've done is I've actually started a new morning ritual. I have meditated a lot in the past. I stopped, I started again. I do a 20-minute morning meditation. And another thing I do that kind of dumps all the stuff out of my brain every morning is I do a thing called the morning pages. And this is put out by the author of The Artist's Way. And you can Google it. It's just called Morning Pages. You can Google it along with The Artist's Way. And what it is it's just 3 pages. I just sit in the morning and I just dump everything that's in my brain. And I just write it down for three pages. It doesn't take very long to do. I don't read the pages. It just gets everything out of my head, and I find that clears my head as I go into the day. It helps me be more engaged and mindful and present in the day. All right. The third component of the PERMA-B model is relationships. And, you know, as Andrea mentioned earlier, if someone asks me what is the most important strategy for improving and maintaining your well-being, I would say, and especially for resilience, reach out to others, spend time with your friends, increase the amount of time that you are socially interacting. And of course, we can't do that. So our greatest resilience strategy we cannot do. However, we can do this virtually. Now, we can text people to reach out to people. We can call people, but the best thing to do is actually video with people. Now, here's what the science shows us. When we actually look people in the eye as we're talking to them, there's a physiological change that happens within our bodies. So it does make a difference between talking on the phone and actually looking the person in the eye. And what I was thinking is that I have a really, really close friend of mine who lives 2 doors down. And instead of just talking to her, I thought next time I call her, I'm going to go and stand on her front porch. And as she stands inside her house behind the window, I'm going to be on the phone and we can actually look at each other in the eye. But for others, we had a girlfriends get together the other night, all online. We all had a glass of wine and we were all seeing each other's faces. So keep that in mind, that our relationships are so critical to our well-being. At this time, when you are communicating with others, try your best to do as much eye to eye, and video is a great way to do that right now. Now, the M in the PERMA-B model is meaning. So can we make meaning of all of this? We know that we are more resilient when we actually can find meaning in adversity. So we might not see the meaning right now, but we can trust that there will be learnings from this. You know, I know when my ex-husband was dying of a brain tumor and he was living here with me and my daughters, you know, all he wanted to do was spend time with us. That's really all he wanted. He didn't want to, you know, go skydiving or go to Paris, or really all he wanted to do every day, because he knew as he was facing his mortality that what was important was the people that he really loved. And he wanted to spend time with his best friends and his family. And I think this whole crisis is going to show us what is really important to us. I mean, it's certainly showing me what is really important to me. Now, one of the things I want to share with you is there is this concept called post-traumatic growth. We often think that these traumatic crises are actually going to put us into post-traumatic stress disorder. It doesn't have to. People go through trauma and they actually can have a thing called post-traumatic growth. So as an example, I have a friend of mine who got breast cancer, and luckily through, you know, she had surgery, she survived. She became a holistic nutritionist because she wanted to feed herself well and stay healthy. Well, it's been 10 years, it has not recurred. She eats better than everybody. She says yes now to everything. And she will tell you that her life has dramatically improved because she had the breast cancer. That is post-traumatic growth. So, you know, a lot of us, I think, are going to emerge from this thinking that our lives will actually be better. We might appreciate things a lot more as a result. So you never know, you know, think about some of the lessons that we're learning here. Now, the A in the PERMA B model is accomplishment. We love to be accomplishing, and sitting at home, it's hard. So can you think of other things that you can accomplish? I have 12 boxes of photographs that I'm going to digitize. I'm going to have those all digitized. I also want to get this body ripped for the summer. So I thought I can do that. Now, I had surgery 3 weeks ago, so my surgeon won't let me exercise until another week. So that's kind of driving me crazy. But my daughter's already got all the online videos. She's already doing all that stuff. So I plan to get this body like rocking and into shape, you know, once I'm done. So think about, you know, can you set a productive goal for yourself? And finally, the V in PERMA B is vitality. And I've mentioned this before. It's about eating right, sleeping, getting some good exercise, and getting outside. And I think all of those things are going to help you keep a strong body, and that means a strong mind. So as a recap, PERMA B, positivity, keep that positivity ratio in good check. Be mindful, keep those good relationships through video, find meaning in all of this, give yourself a productive goal, and get that body strong. And that's kind of my overview. And now we can open it up to some questions. If you have more questions, I have more strategies I can share with you, or if anyone has any questions, please, I'm here to answer any questions you have. Andrea, are you going to start with the questions? I think you're muted. Oh.
Ken?
There we go. I can hear you now.
There we go. Thank you. A little bit of a technical glitch there. Sorry. Thanks for thanks for sticking with me. So we've got some questions. So the first thing, you know, Louisa, thank you. First of all, that is great. And so many of those, as I listened to it, went, okay, there's lots that I know I need to be doing. But as I think about it, it's a lot, right? You just gave us 6 different things or 5 different things that we could do. What is the one thing? So if we could have one thing from where we are right now, as we face the you know, alarming statistics we're seeing, what's the one thing that we can do that is most important?
Well, you know, I think as Canadians, I would say keep it in perspective, you know. So I was just about to put my house on the market. I spent weeks getting it ready. I really need to be selling my house right now, and coronavirus hits. So that kind of stressed me out, right? Because, I kind of have everything financially set and everything else, and that was a real stress. So when I keep it in perspective, I think, well, what's the worst that could happen, right? What's the best? Maybe it might even be better with interest rates going down, right? So, do I really think that everything is going to fall apart? I mean, I try to keep it in perspective. And even then, I think I live in Canada. There's 90% of the world lives, there's a large percentage of the world that lives in poverty, that doesn't, have the kind of lifestyle that we enjoy here in Canada. So even the worst case scenario is still okay if you're living in Canada. So, I would say try to keep this all in perspective. I think, well, if I do get it, I'm going to do my best to fight it, and hopefully it has a low percentage rate. So, chances are I will survive it. Keep everything in perspective and try to remain not in the worst case scenario and catastrophizing, but instead to say what is really the most likely scenario here. And that's the best way to keep it in perspective.
So thank you. So keep it in perspective. That's always good advice. A couple of of our participants have asked if you could just go through the strategies just quickly. What were they again, and just give us, just to kind of remind us what all of those strategies were.
You mean the stress triggers?
No, the PERMAV. So what were yeah.
So the PERMAV was to positivity. So maintain a positivity ratio, 3, 4, or 5 positive emotions to every 1 negative emotion in your day, which means you might have to plan out some different things to happen to bring you into positive emotion throughout the day. One of the ways to do that is savoring, for example. You don't really have to do anything different. Like I savor my morning shower. I pamper myself by putting body lotion on, so I luxuriate in body lotion. All of these little things can add up in terms of just increasing the number of times you go into those positive emotions. Think about what those are for you. The second one is engagement, so being mindful and trying to be totally present as opposed to ruminating or worrying about the future. The third is relationships. Maintain those good relationships. Reach out to people on video. Look people eye to eye. Also, meaning. Can you find meaning in this? What is important to you as you go through all of this? Accomplishment. Set yourself a good goal that you can set. You'll feel better at the end of this. Say, yeah, I finally did that thing I wanted to do. And then finally, take care of your body. Make your body strong. Eat better than you've ever eaten before. Sleep well. And exercise every day, and get outside safely, of course.
So thank you. That's great.
And we have the handout. We're going to
Yes.
have a handout that describes all of the 6 PERMAV.
We're going to send that out to everybody afterwards. One of the questions I'm seeing come up quite a bit, right now there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what's happening to organizations. People are working from home, feeling a little bit isolated, and they're wondering, the question that I'm seeing come up a couple of different ways is, how can I help those I work with use this strategy or understand these strategies? How can I take what you're telling us here today and bring it to my organization in a helpful way?
Well, I think first of all, to set up social situations, online social situations, like you think about this is an online social situation. I've set up what I call well-being water coolers. So next week, I've got certain Zoom times where people can come in and we're just talking to each other. So I think if you could set up some sort of virtual environment where people can come together. Another thing that I think is really important, and I've done this for my neighborhood. I thought about my street and I thought, who's really vulnerable? You know, like there's a lady across the street who's quite a bit older and she's alone. So through me and my other neighbor, we make sure that she's okay. We check in on her. We bring her groceries, right? So I would say how you can help others is by looking around, thinking about the people from your office that you normally interact with, and ask, is there anybody who maybe has come from another country and has no family here? You know, can you just even reach out to them and say, look, I'm here if you need me. If you need anything, let me know. I would say reach out more to people as you do that so that people know that you are available. And the other thing is to have compassion, because I think that right now people are stressed. So you may get a curt email. You may get things from people that are kind of offside and you think, what a jerk, right? But understand that, you know, people don't always show up their best. Always assume positive intent when you get emails from people. Give people the benefit of the doubt at this time. Rise above and be the higher person in that particular case and respond as compassionately and factually as you can without taking things personally, because not everyone is going to show up at their best at this time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think a couple of things that you just said there that I want to reiterate, so people are really, really getting this, is one, it creates virtual social time. I know one of the things that our team here at Talk Boutique does is that we actually have our virtual lunch every day, and it's a no business time. It's we just open a Zoom window, and whoever has the time shows up. Sometimes we have kids for lunch with us. Sometimes we've got pets that come along, and we just hang out and we talk about, because we're missing that social time. So it's a way for us to still have social time. So that's really important. Communicate more. I heard you say that, communicate more. This is a time where communication becomes essential. So where you might have been a little more lax on picking up the phone or talking to people, now is the time, because those emails and texts are difficult in times where we're stressed. And then the third thing I heard you say was, always assume the best. We are all under stress right now, and it's difficult for all of us. So sometimes you're sending a quick note with the best of intentions, but it comes across as harsh or as a little bit out of context. And so when we each give each other a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and pick up the phone, or open a Zoom window and have a face-to-face. It's amazing at how our energy translates when we are talking face-to-face versus texting or sending that blind email. So I think those are all really, really good strategies.
And I think also, when we reach out to people, we know that loneliness can be a contributing factor to even early death. That's how bad loneliness is for our health. But being alone does not mean that you're actually lonely. Right. So the difference is that people, when you feel that you belong to a tribe, you don't feel lonely even when you're alone. So that's why when you reach out to others and see how they're doing, you remind them, hey, you belong. You belong to my tribe, and I'm checking in to see how you're doing. You demonstrate to people. Yeah. They belong and they matter.
Yeah, so to that point, if anyone wants to join us for lunch any day, just let me know. We're happy to have you in our virtual.
Oh, great. I will.
Another question that I see coming up, and it's a great one, is that, stress isn't just caused from what's happening in the world right now. It's not like we had this perfect world before Corona and now we're in stress. We all had stress before Corona, and now we have stress added on top of it. So how do you recommend separating those layers of stress and helping us to sort of pull out what's the thing that's just, the pushing us over the hill, and what's the one that's just there? So how do you suggest we deal with that?
Oh, well, I just say you're probably screwed, No. No, of course not. You know, it's really funny this question is coming up because uh, I am going through like selling my house, and I've got like two other like I have three major things that are happening right now that it at any time would have been hugely stressful, and now this on top of it. So I hear you. So again, what I do is I keep it in perspective and I compartmentalize everything. So, and I get into action. You know, a lot of the times we can just sit in bed and not get out of bed and not face the music, right? So I try to make sure that with everything I'm working on, I'm getting into action with every single thing. When I'm hesitating, when I think I'm not responding to that email that I should be, or addressing that thing that I should be, I stop and I say, okay, Louisa, what's the fear? What is the fear here? And because I always say you can't tame it if you can't name it. So sometimes I'm just not getting to something. And when I realize, when it comes to my head, I think, aha, I'm not doing this. I'm procrastinating. What is it, Louisa? What's stopping you? What's the fear? Once I identify the fear, I can come up with a strategy that then I can go out and get over the fear and get it done. So I do compartmentalize, you know, everything, focus in, okay, how do I manage my stress around this one? And again, the tool that I showed you earlier about the power grid can be really good. So for each stressor that I have, you know, selling the house, for example, I ask what's in my control, what's out of my control. Like, luckily, I didn't buy another house. So it's not like I have to sell my house through coronavirus. I can wait a few months till all of this is over. Thank goodness. Like, praise the universe, right? So, you know, for each one, I think, what is in my control, and can I manage all those things? And then what is out of my control, let it go. And I do that for every single thing that's going on in my life, compartmentalize. Now, if I am actually building my resilience and my well-being using the PermaBee well-being model, I can set up my day to have a PermaBee day, see? And then I'm stronger as I go into all of these things. Then my stressors even become less relevant because I'm really strong going into my day. So think about the importance of that piece of it as well.
Louisa, we're having a little bit of an issue with your audio. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It just seemed to get very strange.
I might be getting messages, but do you want me to repeat anything?
We can hear you, but it's just an odd thing.
Okay.
So
still happening now?
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know what to do about it. We can hear you, but it's like I said, it's just a bit strained. I do have another question that I've seen come up that I think, so maybe if you're a little closer to the microphone, it might help. So one of the questions this idea of post-traumatic growth, what a great concept. I love that concept. We certainly have all heard about post-traumatic stress syndrome, but what about post-traumatic growth? And so, you know, there's a lot of companies right now who are challenged by what's happening. But there's also, as you mentioned with your friend who became a nutritionist, lots of new opportunities that could come as a result. So tell us a little bit more about post-traumatic growth for companies.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Much better.
Oh, great. So, well, post-traumatic growth for companies can be, how are we even better after this coronavirus? Think about a country, for example. So, you know, Doug Ford in Ontario, for example, is asking, well, we need to increase our ventilator capacity, right? So that we are prepared for next time. So that's something that is actually going to make the province better, you know, when this happens again. And a lot of people are saying not if this happens again, but when this happens again. And we will be more prepared as a result. So I think that what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to have learnings with regards to what is working during the crisis, because we can be so focused on what we're missing, what's gone, what's not working, that we don't actually focus in on what is working. What did we actually do that prevented us from going into a financial crisis? Or what kept us together as a team? You know, what are the positive things we were doing that was working as opposed to what's not working? Like, for example, one doctor in an Ontario hospital, you know, instead of saying, wow, we don't have enough ventilators and isn't this a crisis, he asked an appreciative question. He said, how can I ventilate more people with the number of ventilators that I have? And they came up with an adapter so that you could ventilate 4 patients using 1 ventilator.
Wow.
So this is, you know, I was just talking to my good friend Maureen McKenna, who is the master of appreciative inquiry, which is a whole new way of thinking about things. I think that companies at this time can be asking those appreciative questions, not what can we can't, you know, let's not only focus on what we can't do at this time, but what are we doing really well as a result of this? And I think asking those appreciative questions are really powerful. I mean, certainly that ventilator example is such a powerful example of what we can do if we just ask a different question.
Thank you. That's amazing. Appreciative questions. I love that concept. I think we're almost done, so I'm going to ask you one last question. So, Louisa, when you think, I know we've got a lot of parents on the line, and I know children are not immune to the stress and anxiety. So what advice would you give to the parents on how to manage their children's stress and anxiety in this time?
Well, I would say model it, you know, model it. So for example, I use gratitude a lot, you know, so I'm always modeling gratitude. Well, it could be worse, you know. Oh, I'm so grateful we have tomatoes. You know, I don't have a tomato in my house, and as an Italian, that is really stressful for me. So I thought for sure, I just emptied my pantry. I thought for sure I'd have a can of tomatoes. I don't even have a can of tomatoes. So this is like state of emergency for an Italian here,
so
okay?
send Louisa tomatoes.
A tomato, yeah, would love that. I'm going to go out and buy tomatoes. No, I think we need to model it. And so we need to be saying, you know, what we're grateful for, you know, model those resilience starters, say what we're doing. When our kids catastrophize about things, you know, sit down and talk to them about it. And you know what? Don't be afraid to show your own vulnerabilities. You know, there are times when, like with everything that's coming down right now, I told you I've got 3 really stressful things. Now the coronavirus. There are times where I just cry. You know what? I just take a moment and I just cry it out. You know, sometimes you have to do that because it's just too much. I don't cry all day. I cry it out and then I go, okay, done, on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Do not stifle those emotions. Show your kids that you too have those moments, and your kids will see that it's okay for them to be stressed. It's okay for them to cry, you know, once in a while, and cry it out and get it out and not stifle those emotions. Show those emotions and then show them how you recover from that, you know, how you do better from that, and they will learn from you. And I think what is most important is that they know that you have their back, right? That you have their back.
That's been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. It has been an absolute pleasure to hear about all of the ways in which we can each find meaning and take care of our well-being in this time of crisis. For those of you still with us, I want to let you know that we will be sending out a handout from Louisa. She has graciously given us the PERMAV framework, which will help us each manage through some of that. And I would encourage you to think about how you can share it with your teams, because I did hear that question a lot in the Q&A. How can I help others around me? So feel free to share it. Louisa is one of our roster speakers. We are incredibly fortunate to have her. And if you are interested in doing this at your workplace, we are happy to talk to you about how we can bring this virtual lunch and learn to your workplace. So thank you all for joining us. Yes?
And Monday, we're going to be doing another
Oh,
Q&A
yes.
set. Yes.
In fact, on Tuesday, it's Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday. Okay.
Yep, Tuesday, Louisa is going to be back to do more questions and answers. We're launching our virtual speaker series next week that includes what we're calling the Changemaker 20, which is 20 minutes with a changemaker, and it's an Ask Me Anything. So if your question didn't get answered today, hold it until Tuesday and come back and bring all of your friends because it's an open forum. Daniel, who is our talent agent, is going to be moderating, and it should be a ton of fun. So thank you again. And thank you, Louisa. And God bless all of you as we face the challenges and the opportunities that this time has for each of us. Thank you so much. Any final words?
No, I too just want to say blessings to all of you. Stay safe. I'll be praying for everybody during this crisis. So all the best. And thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Great. Thank you so much.